Stop settling for a wife you should have and start demanding the one you must have. Most people think their future is some far-off destination they'll arrive at one day. But I'm telling you right now, your future isn't waiting for you in 5 years. It's being forged in what you do in the next 5 minutes. Your habits are either the architect of your empire or the undertaker of your dreams. Which one are you feeding today? The power of rituals is the fundamental architecture of human achievement because it moves your progress from the realm of willpower into the realm of automation. Most people wake up every single day and try to negotiate with themselves. They wake up and ask, do I feel like working out today? Do I feel like making those sales calls? Do I feel like being disciplined? The moment you ask yourself if you feel like doing the work you have already lost, you've given your lizard brain, the part of you that craves comfort and fears exertion, a seat at the table. Success is not a matter of feeling. It is a matter of systemization. When you study the highest achievers on the planet, you don't find people with superhuman willpower. You find people with superhuman rituals. They have removed the friction of decision-making by turning their peak behaviors into a psychological blueprint that they follow without question. A ritual is different from a simple habit because a ritual is infused with purpose and intensity. It is a physiological trigger that tells your body and mind exactly what state you are about to enter. When you anchor a specific movement, a specific breathing pattern, or a specific breathing pattern, or a specific mental visualization to your morning, you are priming the pump of your nervous system. You are training your brain to recognize that when this ritual begins, the old self dies and the peak performer takes over. This is how you bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to be. If you lead your success up to chance or inspiration, you will be inconsistent, and inconsistency is the slow death of any dream. But when you build a ritual, you create a momentum that carries you through the days when you are tired, when you are stressed, or when the world is screaming for your attention. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your rituals by mastering the first hour of your day or the specific way you approach a challenge. You are essentially programming your internal software to produce a specific result. You are taking the wheel of your own evolution. You are deciding that your destiny is too important to be left to the whims of your emotions. Rituals provide the certainty that allows you to act with total conviction, even when the path ahead is uncertain, turning your daily actions into a sacred contract with your future self. The delta of small decisions is the most misunderstood force in human evolution, because we are biologically wired to look for the big bang, the massive stroke of luck, or the one heroic effort that changes everything. But the truth of the universe is far more subtle and far more powerful. Your life is not defined by the giant leaps you take once a year. It is defined by the millimeter shifts you make every single hour. Imagine a plane taking off from Los Angeles headed for New York City. If the pilot shifts the nose of that plane just 3.5 degrees to the south, it feels like nothing in the cockpit. The passengers don't feel a lurch, the coffee doesn't spill, and the horizon looks exactly the same. But as that plane travels across the continent, that tiny microscopic deviation begins to compound. By the time that plane reaches the East Coast, it isn't in New York, it's in Washington, D.C., hundreds of miles away from its intended destination. That is the power of the delta. That is the trajectory of your life. Every time you choose the salad over the sugar, every time you choose to pick up the book instead of the remote, every time you choose to make one more call when your brain is screaming for you to quit, you are adjusting your internal compass by a fraction of a degree. In the moment, it feels insignificant. You might look in the mirror after one day of discipline and see the same person looking back. You might check your bank account after 1 week of saving and see the same numbers, and that is where most people fail. They give up because they don't see the immediate macro result from their micro decision. But you have to understand the law of compounding interest as it applies to your character. These small decisions are not just actions, they are an investment in a future version of you that hasn't arrived yet. If you stay on the path of 1% improvement, the gap between who you are and who you could be becomes an unbridgeable chasm for anyone else to cross. Conversely, if you allow those 3-degree slips in your standards, hitting snooze just once, letting a negative thought spiral just for a minute, accepting good enough Instead of outstanding, you aren't just losing a moment, you are fundamentally altering your destination. You are moving toward a future of almost and not quite. Success is a game of inches, and the delta of those inches over a decade is the difference between a life of supreme fulfillment and a life of quiet desperation. Your destiny is being written in the smallest ink possible, and every choice you make is a stroke of the pen. The concept of raising your standards is the ultimate lever for human transformation, because at the end of the day, you do not get what you want in life. You get what you tolerate. We all have a list of shoulds, things we think we should do to improve our careers, our health, or our spirit. I should work out more, I should be more patient, I should save more money. But should is a leak in your psychological energy. It's a soft commitment that carries no real weight when the pressure is on. Your life is a precise reflection of your current standards, which are the musts that govern your identity. If your standard for your physical body is merely to not be sick, you will never experience the electric, high-octane vitality of a world-class athlete. If your standard for your business is just to get by, you will never build an empire. The difference between a life of extraordinary fulfillment and a life of quiet frustration is the line you draw in the sand and refuse to cross. You have to stop negotiating with your excellence. When you raise your standards, you are essentially changing the thermostat of your existence. If your internal thermostat is set to 70 degrees and the environment gets cold, you will kick into high gear to bring the temperature back up. But if the environment gets too hot and you start experiencing too much success, your subconscious will find a way to cool things down and pull you back to your old comfort zone. To change your life permanently, you must reset that thermostat. You must make it impossible for you to live at the old evil. This requires a brutal, honest inventory of the things you have been putting up with. Have you been tolerating mediocrity in your inner circle? Have you been tolerating a lack of passion in your intimate relationships? Have you been tolerating a good enough effort in your professional life? The moment you decide that good enough is no longer an option, your brain shifts from a state of seeking excuses to a state of finding a way. This isn't about some intellectual exercise. It's about a visceral, emotional shift where you look at your old self and say, no more. When you raise your standards, you aren't just changing your actions, you are reclaiming your power. You are announcing to yourself and the world that you are no longer a victim of circumstance, but a creator of destiny. By demanding more from yourself than anyone else could possibly expect, you move out of the masses and into the realm of the elite, where the only competition is the person you were yesterday. Identity-based action is the ultimate psychological breakthrough because it shifts the focus from what you are doing to who you are being. They say, I'm trying to stop smoking, or I'm trying to be a leader, but the word trying is a psychological trapdoor. It's an admission that your internal identity hasn't caught up to your external goals. When you say you are trying, you are giving yourself permission to fail because in your heart of hearts, you still see yourself as the person who smokes or the person who shrinks away from responsibility. To create a lasting transformation, you have to realize that your habits are not just actions, they are the external evidence of your internal identity. If you want to change the fruit, you have to change the root. You have to step into a new skin and declare a new I am. When you shift from I'm trying to run a marathon to I am an athlete, your entire nervous system begins to reorganize itself around that new command. An athlete doesn't negotiate with the alarm clock. An athlete gets up and trains because that is simply what an athlete does. It becomes a matter of integrity to your own soul. Your identity is like a magnet. It will always pull your behavior back into alignment with your deepest beliefs about yourself. This is why people who win the lottery often lose it all. Their bank account changed, but their identity as a poor person stayed the same, and they subconsciously found a way to manifest that reality again. If you want to master your future, you must audit the story you tell yourself about who you are. Are you telling a story of struggle or a story of strength? Are you identifying as a victim of your past or the architect of your future? Every time you perform a habit that aligns with your new identity, you're providing yourself with the proof your brain needs to believe the new story. You are building a mountain of evidence that screams, this is who I am. This isn't about faking it until you make it. It's about deciding who you want to be and then proving it to yourself with small, consistent wins. When the action becomes an expression of your identity rather than a chore on a to-do list, the struggle vanishes. Discipline becomes a natural byproduct of your self-image. You no longer have to push yourself toward your goals because your new identity pulls you toward them with an irresistible force. By shifting the focus to identity-based action, you aren't just changing what you do for a day. You are redefining the very essence of your existence and ensuring that your future is a masterpiece of your own conscious design.